History never told you this. Thousands of years ago, before the steam engine was even invented, weapons that defied gravity, physics, and logic ruled the battlefield. A mechanical arm that pulled entire warships out of the sea like toys. A metal object whose form mirrors technology we didn't develop until the 20th century. A flying weapon that used staged ignition, 600 years before the first modern rocket. These are not myths. These are not legends. And yet, nobody can explain how they worked. Syracuse, 214 BC. The Roman fleet was the finest in the world. Thousands of soldiers, experienced commanders, ships built for conquest. They had broken every city they approached. Every single one. Until this one. The moment the first ship entered the harbor, something moved on the walls above. Not an archer, not a catapult. Something that had no name in the Roman military vocabulary. An iron arm, 40 meters long, suspended above the waterline, moving with a mechanical precision no Roman engineer had ever encountered. It didn't aim for the hull. It didn't aim for the soldiers on deck. It reached down and grabbed the bow. Just the bow. 2 meters, 3 meters. The front of the ship lifted clean out of the water. Soldiers sliding, equipment crashing, the entire vessel tilting forward at an angle that defied what wood and water were supposed to do. And then the arm released. Roman historians recorded what happened next with unusual hesitation, as if they weren't sure anyone would believe them. The ship drove headfirst into the seabed, or capsized completely, in seconds, with everyone on it. This was the Claw of Archimedes. The engineering behind it was not magic. It was physics, executed with a precision that still unsettles modern structural engineers. A lever arm between 30 and 40 meters. A pulley system generating a mechanical advantage of 10 to 1, 1 unit of human effort, producing 10 units of lift, enough to raise the bow of a fully loaded Roman warship 2 to 3 meters above the waterline, enough to shift its center of gravity past the point of no return, enough to destroy it without a single soldier drawing a sword. Archimedes understood something Rome didn't. You don't need to be stronger than your enemy. You need to understand the physics they don't. Static equilibrium, moment laws, mechanical advantage, integrated into a single weapon, operated from behind city walls for the first time in recorded history. Modern engineers who have reconstructed the claw confirm one thing, not approximately, not theoretically. It works. Rome eventually took Syracuse, but it took them 2 years. 2 years, held back by one man and the physics he understood better than anyone on Earth. When the city finally fell, Archimedes was killed. The claw was dismantled. The knowledge behind it, gone. No successor built another. No Roman engineer reverse engineered it. No document from the ancient world explains how it was constructed, as if someone decided, this goes no further. What exactly did one man know that an entire empire couldn't figure out? Every civilization that ever existed built weapons, but only one civilization built a weapon and called it a god, the Vajra, Sanskrit for thunderbolt. Described in ancient Hindu and Buddhist texts as the personal weapon of Indra, king of the gods, capable of releasing focused energy, capable of splitting mountains, capable of destroying anything it touched. For centuries, archaeologists classified it as mythology, a religious symbol, a ceremonial object, nothing more, until engineers looked at its geometry. What they found changed the conversation entirely. The Vajra is not a random shape. 2 identical clusters of prongs, one at each end, each cluster curving inward toward a central axis, meeting at a handle, a midpoint where all energy converges. That geometry has a name in modern physics. a toroidal electromagnetic coil. The same structure used in Tesla coils. The same form found inside plasma spheres. The same configuration that appears in high-voltage laboratory equipment designed to concentrate and discharge electrical energy. Not approximately similar, structurally identical. Some theorists have gone further. They propose the Vajra may have functioned as a dielectric resonator, a device designed to collect atmospheric static electricity, concentrate it at the 0 point where the prongs converge, and discharge it as directed energy. Modern particle accelerators use high-voltage terminals that mirror the Vajra's form with uncomfortable precision. Look at them side by side. Then ask yourself, is this a coincidence? The ancient texts don't describe the Vajra as a symbol. They describe it as a technology, operational, repeatable, devastating. And the civilizations that used it, Hindu, Buddhist, Tibetan, separated by geography, by language, by centuries. It appears not just in one temple, but across thousands of miles, from the peaks of Tibet to the plains of India. All describe the same object, the same geometry, the same effect, without ever meeting to compare notes. Modern engineers who have studied the Vajra's form confirm one thing: the geometry is not decorative. Every curve, every prong, every angle serves a specific structural function, consistent with the concentration of electromagnetic energy. Whether it worked, whether it actually discharged what the texts describe, remains unanswered. But the geometry itself was not invented by priests. It was designed by someone who understood what electricity does when you give it the right shape to move through. Thousands of years before we gave that knowledge a name, what exactly did they understand about energy that we are only now beginning to rediscover? By the 14th century, Europe was still fighting with swords and arrows. China was building rockets, not the simple gunpowder charges that most people imagine when they hear the word. Something far more sophisticated. Something that should not have existed for another 600 years. The Huo Long Xiu Shui, the fire crow, recorded in the Wu Bai Zi, a 14th century Chinese military encyclopedia authored by Mao Yuanyi. Not a myth, not a legend, a military manual with technical specifications. The weapon looked, at first glance, like a large decorative bird, a dragon, a crow, a figure carved from wood, almost ceremonial in appearance. It was anything but. Beneath the body of the figure, 4 ignition rockets, solid fuel, precisely packed, designed to burn at a controlled rate. When launched, they carried the entire assembly through the air. But that was only the first stage. When the first rockets burned out, a hidden internal mechanism triggered automatically. And from inside the body of the figure, smaller arrows ignited and launched forward. A second stage, mid-flight, 600 years before staged ignition, became the foundation of modern rocketry. The technical specifications recorded in the Wu Bai Zi are not vague. Range, approximately 1.5 kilometers. At a time when the most powerful conventional weapons on Earth could barely reach a fraction of that distance. And the engineering behind it was not accidental. The wings on the figure were not decorative. They functioned as stabilizing fins, controlling the trajectory of the weapon through the air, with the same aerodynamic principle used in every modern rocket launched today. Small air vents in the body controlled the burn rate of the propellant, adjusting thrust, managing speed, extending range. This was not a craftsman experimenting with fire. This was an engineer who understood aerodynamics, trajectory, and staged propulsion, and applied all 3 simultaneously in a single weapon. Modern engineers who have simulated the fire crow confirm what the Wu Bai Zi recorded. The physics work. The aerodynamics are sound. The 2-stage ignition is not only possible, it is elegant. which makes the silence around it even harder to explain. Because after the Ming Dynasty, the fire crow disappeared. No successor weapon adopted the staged ignition principle. No military tradition carried the knowledge forward. It simply stopped, as if the understanding behind it was tied to the people who built it. And when they were gone, so was everything they knew. We didn't rediscover staged rocket ignition until the 20th century. We called it a breakthrough. The Chinese called it Tuesday. What exactly did they already understand about flight that took the rest of the world 600 years to figure out? 3 weapons, 3 civilizations, 3 solutions that had no business existing when they did. The pattern is the same every time. Knowledge appears, fully formed, precise, devastating, and then, without warning, without explanation, it vanishes. No successor, no inheritance, no documentation that survives. We didn't lose these technologies because we forgot them. We lost them because the people who understood them took that knowledge with them and left us centuries later, still trying to figure out what they already knew. What else are we still looking at without seeing?